Lisa Mitchell, a successful CEO, walked into her own bank one morning, ready to make a simple withdrawal. But what happened next shocked her. The bank manager treated her like she didn't belong, and suddenly her ability to access her own money was being questioned. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. In just 7 minutes, she made a decision that would change everything. Before we start the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from, and if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new one. It was a regular morning when Lisa Mitchell, the CEO of a thriving tech company, walked into her bank. She had been a loyal customer for years, maintaining multiple accounts and doing most of her business there. Today, she was there to make a routine withdrawal, a simple transaction she had done countless times before. As she approached the counter, the teller looked up at her, then quickly down at her computer screen, and then back at Lisa. There was something strange about the way the teller was looking at her, almost as if she didn't belong there. "I'm sorry, Mum, but I can't process this withdrawal for you right now," the teller said, hesitating. Lisa raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? I've been withdrawing from this account for years." The teller fidgeted with the screen, typing in something, and then said, there seems to be an issue with your account. I'll need to get my manager." Lisa felt a wave of frustration, but she held it in, knowing this wasn't the first time there had been a glitch. After all, this was a bank, and mistakes happen. However, when the manager arrived, the situation only got worse. The manager, a middle-aged man with a stiff, uncomfortable demeanor, stood in front of Lisa, glancing at her, then at the teller, and then back at her. "Good morning, Ma'am," the manager said in a tone that seemed oddly dismissive. "I'm afraid there's a problem with your withdrawal request. You've been flagged by our system." "Flagged?" Lisa said, her voice growing colder. "For what?" The manager shuffled through some papers, avoiding eye contact. "Well, it seems there's an issue with the way your accounts are set up. You don't match the typical profile for this kind of withdrawal. There are, protocols for these things." Lisa stared at him, stunned. "Are you saying that because I'm a black woman, I'm not allowed to withdraw my own money? Is that it?" The manager froze, his face going pale, as he realized the gravity of what he had just implied. He stammered, trying to form words, but they weren't coming. Lisa's eyes narrowed, and the anger was unmistakable. Without a moment's hesitation, she stood up, her voice firm and commanding. "I'm the CEO of this company. I built it from the ground up. And you're telling me I can't withdraw money from my own account at my own bank?" The room fell silent. Lisa didn't wait for an apology or an explanation. She reached for her phone and called her lawyer. "I want that manager fired, effective immediately," she said, into the phone, her voice unwavering. Just 7 minutes after being humiliated at her own bank, Lisa had the manager's termination letter sent to the branch. She walked out of the bank with her head held high, her dignity intact, and a clear message to the institution: disrespecting her, or anyone for that matter, would have consequences. Word of the incident spread quickly. Within hours, news outlets were reporting the story, and social media was buzzing with reactions. Lisa's quick action made waves in both the business and financial communities. People were talking about how she had turned an uncomfortable situation into a powerful statement about racism, equality, and standing up for what was right. The bank's corporate offices were flooded with calls. The board members were in crisis mode, scrambling to contain the fallout. They issued a public apology to Lisa, offering her compensation for the ordeal and assuring her that they would investigate the matter thoroughly. But Lisa wasn't interested in the apology or the money. She wanted accountability. "I've worked hard my entire life to get to where I am," Lisa told a reporter later that day. "I will not stand for this kind of treatment, not for me, and certainly not for anyone else. If you're in a position of power and you're willing to let people get away with this behavior, You're just as guilty as the ones committing the injustice." Her words resonated with many. The support came pouring in, not only from her business contacts but from people who had faced similar discrimination. Lisa became a symbol of resilience, of someone who wouldn't let anyone, no matter their position, make her feel less than she was. At the same time, the bank was trying to manage its reputation. The board was forced to take immediate action. They began conducting a full investigation into the manager's behavior, as well as reviewing their internal policies regarding customer service and discrimination. Lisa had set a precedent. She didn't just want to be a CEO, she wanted to be an advocate for fairness and integrity, especially in places where people were often overlooked or treated unjustly because of their race or background. Days later, she was invited back to the bank for a private meeting with the executives. They assured her that they were making significant changes to prevent something like this from ever happening again. But Lisa made it clear she wasn't there for lip service. "I'm glad you're making changes," she said, "but this isn't just about one manager or one mistake. It's about creating a culture where people feel safe, valued, and respected. You're not going to get away with making it look good for a few weeks and then going back to the same old practices." She wasn't going to let them forget this. She wanted proof that things would change, and she wanted it quickly. Over the next few weeks, Lisa remained vigilant. She wasn't going to let the bank's apology or their promises lull her into thinking the problem was solved. She was determined to hold them accountable every step of the way. She started reaching out to other business owners and influential people in her community, encouraging them to demand more from the banks and corporations they did business with. It wasn't just about her incident anymore. It was about changing a system that often overlooked or mistreated people based on the color of their skin. Lisa began organizing meetings with leaders from different industries to discuss how to create workplaces that embraced diversity and inclusion, not just in their hiring practices, but also in how they treated customers. She was passionate about using her platform to make real change. Meanwhile, the bank, still reeling from the public backlash, finally released a statement. They acknowledged the mistake made by the manager and shared the actions they were taking to address the issue. They had begun retraining their staff on anti-racism practices, ensuring that no customer would ever feel the way Lisa had felt that day. The manager, who had been fired, attempted to speak out, claiming he hadn't meant to discriminate, but his words fell flat. People weren't interested in his excuses, they were more interested in the systemic change Lisa was pushing for. As the weeks went by, the bank started to make noticeable improvements. Lisa even received a formal invitation to speak at a diversity and inclusion conference they were hosting. It wasn't just about making up for what had happened, it was about listening, learning, and making sure it never happened again. Lisa's story became a rallying cry for people who had been ignored, mistreated, or discriminated against. She used her experience to empower others, reminding them that no matter who you were or where you came from, you had the right to stand up for yourself and demand respect. And while Lisa's initial experience at the bank had been humiliating, she knew it had ultimately given her a much larger platform to make a difference. The small incident had sparked a larger movement, one where every person could feel valued, no matter their race, gender, or background. Lisa's actions had sent a clear message. In business and in life, integrity, respect, and fairness would always come first. And anyone who tried to stand in the way of that would soon find out that there were consequences. The ripple effect of Lisa's actions continued to grow. As word spread about her unwavering stance against discrimination, other CEOs and business leaders began reaching out to her for advice. Many shared their own stories of encountering similar challenges, and some admitted that they hadn't done enough to address these issues within their own organizations. Lisa became a trusted voice in the corporate world for advocating change, and her influence reached beyond the financial sector. She was invited to speak at various forums, from national business conferences to local town halls, where she discussed the importance of leadership that not only focused on profits, but also prioritized human dignity. During one of her talks, Lisa made a bold statement that resonated with the audience. Leadership is not just about leading in business, it's about leading by example in every aspect of life. You can't just say you care about diversity, you have to show it with your actions, and sometimes that means making the tough call, even if it's uncomfortable. Her words sparked a movement within several companies, many of which began implementing new policies, creating mentorship programs, and actively recruiting diverse talent. Lisa had become a force for positive change, a role model for those who believed that success wasn't just about profit margins, but about making the world a better place for everyone. Yet even with all this success, Lisa never forgot the original reason she had fought so hard. That moment when she was denied access to her own money, a moment that had humiliated her but ultimately gave her the strength to stand up for countless others who faced similar discrimination. She stayed in touch with the bank, holding them to their word about their internal changes. They invited her back for a final review of the reforms they had implemented. This time, the meeting wasn't about apologies, it was about progress. As the bank presented their efforts, new hiring practices, revised customer service protocols, and an overall commitment to diversity, Lisa knew this was a step in the right direction. She didn't just want them to change for her, she wanted them to change for everyone. Before she left, she made one last request. I want to make sure that every person who walks through your doors feels like they belong here. I want to see the numbers, the impact, and the stories of those who are no longer left out or overlooked. And with that, Lisa left the meeting feeling confident that the bank was on the path to truly transforming its culture. But she also knew this wasn't the end. There was still so much work to be done. Lisa had become a trailblazer, but she wasn't done. She would keep fighting for fairness, equality, and respect, not just in the banking world, but everywhere. And as she continued to break barriers, she knew that her work was far from finished. Every victory was another step toward a world where everyone had a seat at the table. Lisa's journey didn't stop there. Over the months that followed, she became a leading advocate for systemic change in the corporate world. Her relentless pursuit of fairness and equality sparked conversations and actions in industries across the country. She was invited to join boards, mentor rising stars, and consult with companies on diversity initiatives. Everywhere she went, people listened. Her story was no longer just about the bank incident. It was about breaking barriers, standing up to injustice, and demanding a world where everyone was treated with the respect they deserved, regardless of their race or background. Lisa had become a living example of what it meant to use power for good. She had turned a painful, humiliating moment into an opportunity to help others. Her influence reached far beyond the corporate world, inspiring everyday people to speak out against discrimination in their own lives. And as the years passed, Lisa continued to lead with integrity, proving that sometimes a single action, one that takes courage in the face of adversity, can spark a movement that changes the world. In the end, Lisa knew her fight wasn't just for herself. It was for everyone who had ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or disrespected. And she was ready to continue that fight, no matter how long it took. Her story was no longer just her own. It was a story that belonged to all of those who had ever dared to challenge the system. It was a story of triumph, of change, and of a future where respect and equality were not just ideals, but the standard. And so Lisa's work went on, a legacy of leadership, advocacy, and an unshakable commitment to making the world a better place for all.